All right, welcome back, everyone. I just want to remind you all that there are surveys on your chair. If you could please fill them out, they're going to be extremely beneficial for us to know what exactly you want in years to come to make this event better than it is for the first year. Make sure if you do want to qualify for the OptiShot winnings valued at around $9,000. Write your $900. I wish 9,000. Please just write your name on the sheet of paper, the little slip on the index card. If you do not write your name, we won't know who filled out the survey, and we cannot contact you to let you know that you won. Also, especially for students, fill out those Kaplan cards. You can get a lot of a scholarship for one of their classes, up to $2,000 from anywhere from an LSAT course to a GMAT course. It's extremely beneficial, especially if you're a student. So yeah, welcome back. My name is Michael Friedman. I am the current Vice President of Marketing for the MSBC. I hope you've all been enjoying the conference so far and are as excited as I am for the upcoming panel. So yes, another reminder, please fill out the surveys and the Kaplan cards. They're extremely important for us for moving on within the conference. We just want as much feedback as possible, so thank you in advance. Marketing the Michigan Sport Business Conference has in no way been an easy task, but during the process I have learned one key thing. When marketing something as special as this conference, with the amount of personalities and insight being offered, the product nearly sells itself. However, this is usually not the case. Marketing takes strategy, innovation, creativity, and most importantly, teamwork. Rather than relying on an old slogan such as, "Is it in you?" marketers must capture the consumer's needs and expand their brand, possibly by evolving an infamous sports drink into a sport performance nutrition. Instead of observing a worldwide sport, such as soccer, remain stagnant in America, marketers must create excitement and joy by coordinating and bringing in new personalities onto the pitch, such as a David Beckham. Rather than focusing one's company on a particular sport, marketers need to think outside of the box, possibly by launching the company into the global soccer business by signing the largest deal in English Premier League history with the Liverpool Football Club. And in an era where energy drinks are taking over, a marketer must not only develop the 2-ounce energy shot market, but take that $3 million product and turn it into a $600 million brand, spending $40 million on sport advertising and $15 million on professional sponsorships. It is no easy task, but the individuals in our advertising and sponsorship panel know more about a marketer's duty than one could imagine. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our advertising and sponsorship panel. John Shea, Senior Director of Gatorade Sport Marketing. Chris McGuire, Director of Sport Marketing at Adidas. Dave Dixon, the Chief Marketing Officer of Warrior Sports. Scott Henderson, President of 5 Hour Energy. And our panel moderator, Dave Greeley, Managing Director and Practice Leader at Frank and Magid Associates, one of the top research-based strategic consulting firms in the nation. Mr. Greeley, please take it away.
Thank you. It's great to be back here on campus. Boy, you really do need to speak directly into these mics, so just an inch makes a difference. It's great to be here this afternoon. We've got a great panel. We have dozens and dozens of years of practical hands-on experience. And one thing I want to say off the bat here is that it's an honor to be here, and I know our panel's excited to talk to them all in advance. And it's a great chance to not only give back to the industry, but give back to a school for a lot of us that has a deep and personal meaning. One thing we're going to try to do this afternoon is keep it very tight, keep it moving. We'll have lots of fun, certainly provide some time for questions at the end. So with this panel, we've got some real leaders in the field, the sports business field. I wanted to open it up just generally at first, just real tightly in the Twitter age. Give 30 to 60 seconds with each of you guys on your company's advertising, marketing, and sponsorship approach. Very general, very macro, just so the group can have a sense. Do you just want to start, Dave?
Sure. I guess not only Twitter, but just social marketing in general. And I think it's been mentioned a lot during the day, but, when especially we're targeting, teenagers, it becomes a bigger part of their lives every day. And certainly it's incorporated in all the marketing we do. And you heard in the last speech as I was sitting there that, even advertisements that, air, they get shown more and more often and get sent around, and they have a life of their own oftentimes. So I guess quickly I'd just say obviously it's a very big part of what we do in marketing, and we're very conscious of making sure that we think about how it's going to be used in everything we do. So.
We actually built our brand with TV advertising, and that's why you see us still spending about $40 million a year on sports-related TV. We spend about $100 million on TV in general. It's worked for us very well. When you talk about social media, we're actually in our infancy there. That's something we're working on. The brand itself is about 7 years old. The first thing we really branched into beyond TV is sponsorships. We're very heavy in NASCAR with Clint Boyer, number 15, third in the chase. For all you NASCAR fans out there, I have a feeling if I asked, raise your hand, how many NASCAR fans? Okay, that's about 5 more than I thought we'd have here. So that's not where we're trying to get to you folks. And then we're in the PGA also with Jim Furyk, and that's where most of our money goes.
Well, I think social media and marketing is kind of the center of everything we're going to do. We've actually started a new department at Adidas that is focused solely on how we attack the digital age. Obviously, we'll never go away from the television advertising. That's always king. But I do believe that digitally, that's where we'll focus a lot of our efforts. Everything has got a hashtag on it now. I don't know much about Twitter. I know Darren Ravel's probably tweeting right now. So he's keeping us all up to date on what's happening in the sports world, and that's where the core consumer is, right? As we look at our brand, we want to target that high school kid, the 14 to 17-year-old, and that's where you spend most of your time. We've talked a lot about it today, and I think will continue to be the topic of conversation for a lot more conferences in the future.
And at Gatorade, I mean, we're exclusively about the athletes. So we are all about athletes, working to make them better with our products. As a brand, we have a unique point of view that athletic performance is driven from the inside out. So everything we do from a marketing standpoint, from an innovation standpoint, is all about athletes and helping them get better. That's what we think we do better than anybody else, and what we've kind of built the brand on, the heritage of the brand coming out of the sports science labs at University of Florida, developed by sports scientists in conjunction with athletes and their influencers, the coaches around them. And we continue to do that and innovate in ways that continue to evolve as athletes evolve. And the marketing and advertising that we do supports all of that. So it's a lot of our target is a teenage athlete. That's when athletes are most active in their lives. And then, we focus our efforts on amplifying the service model that we have to support those athletes.
This is a great panel, I think, because if you really look at Scott and Dave, they represent 2 upstart or challenger brands, kind of new to the market scene, relatively speaking. And Chris and John represent very strong, iconic, legacy, heritage-type brands. So, Dave, I want to ask you, because you represent this great brand warrior that's really come on the scene very aggressively over the last decade or so, but you've also worked with great heritage brands like a Miller. What have been the big changes you've seen in the advertising and marketing world over the last 10 years?
Well, I think we just touched upon one, certainly, is the growing importance of social and in general digital marketing. I do think, as you mentioned, in my background, at one point worked at Miller Beer, and certainly you have a lot more resources. You have a lot more resources at your disposal when you're with a larger company like that. In a smaller, growing company like Warrior, you need to be more creative. You need to make your dollars work harder. And so, we're always looking for ways that we can connect with our target consumer, maybe where our competitors don't. So we actually do quite a bit of grassroots marketing, and certainly it's where we started in the game of lacrosse. And so, we do a road show, and we're at a lot of events, and we're communicating directly with our consumers. It's a bit more expensive than some other means of marketing, but it's a great way to really connect with that consumer on a one-on-one basis. So, I think each company, there's changes that are going on a macro level, but then it's also depends on the company you're in and what you're marketing, kind of what the right marketing mix is and how to best reach your consumer. So for me, part of it on the macro level certainly has been more on the digital side than what we did 10 years ago, but certainly just the different size of the companies and ways to connect with your consumer. it's each company is individualistic, and you need to see what works for that company. And for Warrior, it's been I think doing that one-on-one communication through some grassroots experiential marketing, and obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing more digital than we've ever done before.
Scott, your background is very entrepreneurial and operational in nature. Obviously, it serves you well when you're working with a highly emergent brand like 5 Hour Energy. Can you mentioned that advertising has been core to building the 5 Hour Energy brand. Can you just get into maybe the tactics on a very practical level, how you do your advertisement, lots of different ads, the creative decisions, how you go about ultimately putting ads on the air?
Yeah, when you start out, you don't have a lot of money, and I joined the company when it was about $8 million in sales. Not a ton of money. We did very, very low budget, late night TV advertising, basically remnant buys, and then you found over time you built the customer base, and it grew from there. Then as you get a little bit bigger, the way we handled our ad budget is we always said if we're spending money and we're getting more back in sales, we'll keep doing it, and that's what we did. And then you kind of evolve into more mainstream advertising. For us in the sports world, you'll see it in what we do, like on Big Ten Network or ESPN, where we have some pretty significant buys, also Fox Sports, and you can do things around that once your buys are big enough to get different exposure. One of the problems you have in TV, these days is people either they're watching on their phone or on their iPad, or they're DVRing things. Okay, the beauty about sports is people consume it live. Typically, they're not DVRing it, so if you're running an ad during sports, there's a good chance people are watching it. But there's also a good chance they're going up for a bathroom break or getting something to eat, so you need to watch that. So we've done things like in NASCAR, in-car cameras as part of the ad buy. We usually negotiate that along with it, and then you get stuff like Joyce Julius, who's one of the sponsors. They track the value of media, and I think halfway through the season, they said we got $100 million worth of media exposure through NASCAR. I tell you, we don't spend that much money. And a big piece of that was the in-car camera. So you're getting exposure in the race or in the event for Big Ten Network or ESPN. You have a lot of games brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. So that's another thing where people see it. It's during the game, and it's a way to get them and not miss out during the commercials.
Sure. So, John, you're kind of the opposite end of the spectrum with Gatorade, this iconic sports brand, very heavily involved in the sports sponsorship world. Based upon your perspective, because we are talking advertising, marketing, a huge part of that is sponsorship. From your vantage point, from Gatorade's vantage point, what would you change about the sponsorship business today?
Yeah, I think for us, like I said, we're authentically trying to help athletes get better. So that's our point of difference in our products. And I think the things you've seen the sponsor landscape change. You've seen the sponsor landscape change a lot in the past few years. If you rewound 10 years ago, a lot of sponsors were trying to get exposure during a broadcast. So they're trying to get signs. They're trying to get some very standard things. Now it's a lot more about telling the full story. And for us, as we're fueling athletes, the story we're trying to tell is how we are with athletes along their journey. So in the professional sports world in the U.S., for instance, nearly 90% of the professional athletes in this country are fueling with Gatorade, training with Gatorade, using Gatorade on game day. We want to tell that story through our sponsorship. So for us, it's all about telling that authentic story of what we're doing, how we're a part of the game, and the role that we play in athletes' lives. And I think that what we're seeing in the sponsorship landscape is you're seeing a lot of other brands that are trying to tell richer stories through their sponsorship, as opposed to just looking for kind of quick hit exposures and looking to tell more of a complete brand story. And I think that's where the industry is headed, and that's where we're trying to stay on the forefront of that space.
So, Chris, what do you think? You also represent an iconic brand that has that's kind of moved into new space, and I'm specifically talking about American sport. Very curious from your standpoint, Adidas, worldwide known brand with football in international circles. Yet here in the States, you made a similar commitment to soccer in the U.S. I'd love to hear about your thoughts behind the advertising, marketing, and sponsorship of soccer in the United States.
Yeah, and I think we're in a unique position, much like Dave, and we actually produce products that athletes need to perform in their sport. And I truly believe the best form of advertising is watching your products in motion or on the field or on the courts of play, and that's something that you really can't put a price tag on. Obviously, we'll continue to market via digital, via television. I mean, digital also, to jump on the last question, that allows you to really control your message and go direct to consumer. TV, you're buying ad time. You hope that guy's sitting on the couch or that girl's sitting on the couch watching your commercial. When you go digital and you control your space, whether that's a Facebook or a Twitter account, you're able to really message exactly what you want to that consumer and let them have that experience with your brand. Additionally, as we look at what we need to do as a company, Dave, you touched on, globally, in a lot of markets, we're the number one from a brand market share. A lot of that has to do with our rich heritage in soccer. We are a soccer company. It's kind of the DNA of our brand, and it's what has helped us grow over the years and allow us to penetrate new markets. And coming into the U.S., I mean, we're the old, I can give you the whole history of Adidas, but we were the first manufacturers ever of sports equipment, much like John talked about the athlete. Everything we do is to produce the best products for athletes. So our rich heritage around soccer allowed us to jump into the U.S. market really in the 90s and allow us to tack American football, as we call it, sometimes basketball. Obviously, we've got a big partnership with the NBA, and look at those new markets and stuff to help us grow our market share. Knowing that, soccer is still a DNA, so we've been pretty influential really at the grassroots landscape for, the last 25 years for the sport. And then recently through our relationship with Major League Soccer, where we had an all-league deal that began in 2005, and, they approached us on some ways they struggle, obviously, to build their brand in a tough sporting market, and what we could do collaboratively to help build the sport here in America. So a lot of fun initiatives come down the pipe there, but, even when we look at where we need to grow and what the priorities are, we'd still put those in football and basketball in the U.S.
So I want to throw this out to the whole table because a couple points were raised. The word digital has been spoken a lot already today. Has been spoken a lot for this panel. So given the digital considerations in today's ad and marketing world, a point you touched on, John, and you could start if you want. I'm just throwing this out to the whole table. I'd like the panel to address how you're using content with your advertising and marketing efforts to build your brands.
Yeah, I can start. I'll give an example. The relationship we have with the NFL is our biggest partnership, and something unique that we've done this year. That goes well beyond kind of traditional advertising, but creating content to tell that rich story. So for us, we've done this program the past couple of years, a program with the NFL called Everything to Prove, where we've taken 10 NFL rookies, followed them from the time that they're done with their college experience all the way through their first year, and focusing on all the training, nutrition, preparation that it takes to make it in the NFL. So it's this year we had RG3, Andrew Luck, Trent Richardson. So it's the top athletes coming out of that and created content that we are running with the NFL, filming it with NFL Films cameras because they have access to those locker rooms and telling that complete story of what it takes. And obviously for us, our products are naturally there, so it's not a forced content. So for us, what we're trying to do is tell the authentic story of what's already happening. I think we're in a pretty fortunate spot because our products are so woven into what athletes are already doing that the stories come naturally. But for us, that's kind of the sweet spot as we look to tell the stories of what the best athletes in the world are doing to fuel their performance, which then translates into for a teen athlete, they can get a view of what it takes and what the right nutrition and training elements are. So for us, that's a great example. We're doing other things across other partnerships that we have, but I think that kind of speaks to where I see the content space going, because you've really got to find something that's authentic to your brand. Otherwise, there are a lot of people creating different content right now.
Yeah, and to grow on that, I think it's the way we now launch product, right? If you go back 10 to 15 years in the industry, you used to rent out big auditoriums, build big shoes that no one could ever fit in, but that's how you introduce your product to all your key retailers. Now, essentially, whether that's a new product, a new television commercial, I hope everyone's seen the new spots we run with Derrick Rose. called The Return. So we've launched all those segments digitally before we even take it to broadcast television. We launch all our new footwear digitally before you'll see it in store or you'll see it on a television commercial. So very important center of how we change our business. Obviously, where that core consumer, like we talked about, is online one way or another, and to be able to get out in the forefront. And as soon as we have that image, we've done it here with the university, right? Every time we introduce a new uniform, it's done originally online one way or another, whether it's on the webpage or we do it on our Facebook page, but it's a way to attract excitement over a long period of time. It's not a huge spend, quite frankly, and it allows you to talk to the consumer in a much different way.
So I want to jump in for Scott and Dave. Feel free, please, to make a quick comment on your content strategy as it relates to advertising and marketing. But specifically, I'd like both of you guys, and Scott, you obviously have a deep level of expertise on the category. I'd like your commentary on Red Bull Stratus, specific to a content marketing play.
First of all, I'm glad the guy made it down safely. That was a good thing. They didn't have to use the 30-second delay. For Red Bull, they're different than we are. We're very much function-oriented. It's 5-hour energy. You know, it is what it is. It says what it is. I was telling somebody earlier, my favorite comment from a college student once was, we drink Red Bull when we're partying, we drink 5-hour when we're studying. And for me, that's perfect because basically you guys are all going to get jobs at some point. And you can go to the bar at night and have a Red Bull and vodka, but when you need to get up and go to work the next day, either before work or when that 2:30 feeling hits, you can have yourself a 5-hour energy. Okay? So, and along those lines, I was really hoping Dave Brandon would have said about all you guys, you students getting out there for that noon game tomorrow. I wish you would have said at about 10 o'clock, have a 5-hour energy, and then there's no excuse for you not to be in your seats. But I guess I didn't give enough money to the school. So that probably doesn't answer your question. But for us, I'm a politician.
Free flowing.
I'm a politician. Just make up a new question, right? We're not big in digital, so we don't do a lot there right now. But we're kind of playing around, and actually I came across a really cool thing sitting in the MLB.com suite at the Game 4 of the World Series, where unfortunately our Tigers lost. But these guys have the ability to do things on .com that we can't do on regular TV, because in regular TV, if you're not an MLB sponsor, you can't show an athlete, you know, with your product. But they do it on MLB.com, so we're not doing anything there yet. But it's something we're looking at, and it's a way you can use a lot of athletes that drink 5-hour, but they're not public about it. We could use some of these people, and you can use them market specific, because you could feed a guy in the, you know, Nate McLeod, who's a Michigan fan, on the Orioles.com site. So there's things we can do that we're not doing yet.
So, Dave, what do you think content in Red Bull Stratus?
Okay. On the content side, I guess for us it's similar to John, what you mentioned, which is being authentic. And what, Scott, you just said, too, which is using athletes that you may not otherwise – it doesn't feel like an ad when an athlete is out there talking about your product or using it as part of whatever they do. And when they talk about how it's helped their game, I think it actually hits home more with your consumer. You know, for us, we'll use it for an example in our lacrosse business. We have Paul Rabel, who's arguably the best lacrosse player in the world right now, and we've come out with a new line of lacrosse gear with his name on it. So he's constantly out there tweeting about the product. He's doing road shows to go to retailers to help promote the product and sign autographs. We're doing videos around that are shown, again, through social media. He's tweeting about it constantly. He talks about how he helped design the product and how it makes him better. So, again, those insights are what kids who are passionate about the sport want to see and read about and what they're online for. So, again, it feels authentic. It helps our brand. You know, it's a great way to get the message out there, quite honestly, without having to spend a ton of money. As far as Red Bull, you know, from an outsider and a brand that, you know, certainly part of what we try and do is make a splash, if you will, with limited dollars. And so I look at what they did and say, you know, you can't argue with it got a lot of talk value. It was, I think, on brand for them in terms of who they are. So I thought it was brilliant from that aspect. And, you know, I think for Warrior, that's part of what, you know, we always look to do. I mean, not that exact same thing, but how do you break through in such a way that it still feels authentic to the brand and you get that talk value? Because as we all know, there's a lot of advertising and messaging out there, and most of it gets lost. And I give Red Bull credit for doing something that didn't get lost and even has us talking about it right here.
So I'm going to throw this out to the panel, an open topic. Digital efforts we've heard, again, a lot about. With traditional sponsorship, how or when or if are those lines getting blurred? Digital and sponsorship. Don't be shy.
Right. For us, I mean, we don't look at it as different things. I mean, we're sponsoring and have partnerships with the teams, the leagues, the athletes, and digital is an element that helps us amplify that to our audience. But we're not looking at it necessarily as a digital play. We're looking at what's the core idea, and then how do we best reach our audience. And digital is a great way to do that for our young audience.
No, and I would agree. And I think, as the sponsorship dollars dwindle, I mean, we all went through a tough recession in 2008, 2009, so it allowed a lot of companies to look at how their spends were. Gave you an opportunity to get out of a lot of things, too, quite frankly, that weren't working. But now how do you take those sponsorship dollars that you're working with now and make them come to life and activate those partnerships? And to John's point, a lot of that's done digitally, right? It's a relatively cheap form of advertising. It allows you to be aggressive of what you want to do and get your message out. I think the other thing, we can all talk to is kind of how we look in store, right? It's a great form of advertising for ourselves. We do large deals with your sporting goods suppliers, the doors you're going into on a regular basis to buy your sporting goods. And, a lot of how do you market your product and how does that shoe look on the wall, that becomes extremely important for us, because you got to be able to differentiate yourself in that clutter of what could be a sporting goods store and make that consumer want to choose the Adidas brand over one of our competitors. So another form of advertising that we need to continue to consider how we allocate our dollars.
Since we don't do a lot of digital, we don't have a lot of blurring going on, but you have to look at what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. We made the move up to the Sprint Cup level of NASCAR this year, and again, I know we don't have a lot of NASCAR fans here, but it's the number 2 sport out there behind NFL. We make a product for people who work, and a lot of people that watch NASCAR are people who work, so it kind of hits a core for us. And with the changing sport landscape, we were able to get in and make a significant presence in NASCAR in year one at a dollar amount that we probably would have paid double had it been a couple years earlier, pre-2008 or whatever. And, in the course of doing all this, we got on Clint Boyer for the whole season and identified Clint Boyer as the 5-hour guy. He won 3 races. He's in the chase. He's the number 3 driver. Ton of exposure. Wouldn't have been able to do that before. And you can do that now, and people, I think they're spending all their money or their direction on digital, and there's still some other stuff you can do. When you get a guy like that, we do a lot of stuff with our retailers and a lot of stuff with our end consumers around him. Got us into some Walmart things that we couldn't have done otherwise either. And at the end of the day, for us, the thing that matters is how do you sell more product, and that's how we judge all our sponsorships.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief because I think for us it's similar. It's blurred in that we look at the story we want to tell, and part of that sponsorship, certainly digital is a way to bring it to life. So we'll use digital to connect with consumers, and having that sponsorship gives you obviously assets that you can bring to life digitally.
Getting later in the afternoon, so we're going to pick up the pace here. I love very tight answers, 3, 4, 5 word associations tied to return on investment. What are you looking for? Return on objectives. Dave, we'll start with you. Just kind of go down whether it's an objective or return on the investment. What are you looking for?
At the end of the day, I'm looking for more sales.
That's like 7 words. Sales. That's
sales is the key thing, and then I'm also looking for how many people that we are actually connecting with. So
sales and consumer connection. Scott, what about you?
So for us, number 1 is sales. Number 2 is brand exposure. And number 3 is more credibility for the brand.
Sales and mind share.
This is access to athletes and impressions.
Okay, John, curious. Access to athletes and impressions, okay? And I also heard earlier a word authenticity. Serious question. and this is a bad example, so I won't put this up here. I saw all postseason Major League Baseball. I saw the G2 sitting there. How many guys drank it sitting on the podium?
I don't know how many guys drank it sitting on the podium, but I mean, it's our products are surrounding the athletes, right? So we've got products that have been fueling those guys since training camp and in spring training in baseball. So it's around them everywhere they are.
So okay, so not between the lines in the media room. There wasn't a concern with authenticity being on a podium. Clearly, it's about brand impression. Clearly, it's about getting the return on investment. But sitting on the podium, is it different than the dugout?
I mean, the product is there because they've just finished an athletic event, and a lot of them are thirsty. So the products are there. A lot of them bring their own products up there. So the cases where you saw, in baseball, you see that multiple products up there sometimes, and that's guys bring them up there. So
and that's why he runs Gatorade Sports Marketing.
Make our product available to them for sure.
Good answer. Quick hits. All right, true or false? And quick answer why. Quick hits. True or false? I want to go down the table. Reaching consumers today in the multi-platform world is easier. True or false? Agree or disagree, Dave? True or false?
True, because I think you can target consumers easier today than you could in the past.
Scott?
I'll be a contrarian and say false because there's so many more different places you have to look for them.
Chris?
True. You can get to the end consumer quicker than ever.
John?
Absolutely true.
That's good. That was quick.
Hey, Dave, I just want to make a point here.
It's getting late in the day. He needs 5 hours. 5 hours of pure energy. I knew Scott when he was an undergrad student. He got his 5-hour energy in a different way when he was at the University of Michigan, for the record.
Hey.
I think I might have been there with you. So, all right, so true or false, real quick, and why? Reaching consumers is more cost efficient in the multi-platform world.
Again, I'd say true, because digitally you can do it for a lot less money.
I'll say true because I said false last time. But I actually am not truthful. You can use a rifle approach versus a shotgun.
True.
I think true for us, being around the athletes on the sidelines during a game that's now broadcast, online, on a mobile, on television, multi-countries, it's absolutely true for us.
So, looking at the liquid guys, Scott and John. So, America's aging; it's changing. We saw that on Tuesday night. Clearly, America's aging and changing. What do the changes between generations, and frankly, the changing demographics mean for you with your advertising, marketing, and sponsorship efforts?
I'm going to go first. For us, we're targeting a young consumer, when they're most active in their lifespan. So, for us, some of the changes are very helpful to us, and I think that the changes in how they view products, though, is the biggest thing. So for us, you've heard me talk a lot about authenticity and making sure that we are, more than anything else, staying true to what the athlete needs and following the trends of how they're training and how we can best fuel them for their performance. So I think that, when we look at, how the consumers respond to our messages, that changes a lot. So you need to make sure, more than anything now, that you're absolutely authentic in your innovation, in your messages, and in the way that you're reaching them.
The challenge we have is we say our products for people who work, so it's a pretty broad spectrum anyway. We don't market to kids. Red letter, we've never have. So a lot of you guys probably haven't got messaging directed towards you. Now you're adults, you're 18 or 18 to 22 or whatever. So we're starting to come after that. It's a new area for us. And when you get into new areas, you have to learn some new things about how to do it right.
What, Chris and Dave, I'm curious, from a very practical standpoint, these students, what do they need to know about the sports business? If they want to enter, what's your word of advice for these guys if they want to get into the business?
I guess what I'd say is that first, if you're passionate about the business, for me, I heard that in the last speaker who was here, is that, if you're passionate about sports, I think it goes a long way. So I think that's where it starts for me. It's a fun industry to be in because I love sports. I've played them my whole life, and so I think it makes it much easier to go to work every day because you'll spend a lot of your life doing that. And so I think that's key. And then, I think getting a well-rounded education. I mean, certainly on the marketing front is, having a strong financial background and good negotiation skills and all those different things that, are needed. It's not all just the advertising. So be passionate and have a well-rounded background, and I think people do well.
No, I agree. I think a lot of it is passion. I mean, you look at our employee base at Adidas, and we all have a common goal. The age range is anywhere from 22 to 35 is kind of our main crossroad of our employees there in Portland, and we're all former athletes. This is the most dressed up I've been outside of Portland in a long time. We wear tennis shoes every day to work, or our products, so that's another special feature for joining the sporting goods industry. But, we're passionate. We all have a common goal, and you strive to do what's right for athletes, to make the best products possible. But, as Dave touched on, it's not all fun and games. It's great to go to sporting events. There's a lot of travel, and you get to see the world. At the end of the day, though, you also have to have a lot of hard discussions where people value themselves maybe a little higher than what your brand may value those individuals, and you got to be able to say no with a smile and maintain a relationship because you never know when those evaluations may change a little bit. So, but I would continue great education. I think what you've done here today is phenomenal. Allows you networking is a great way. I mean, that's how I got into the industry. So the more people you know, the more networking you can do, the better off you'll be in the long run.
So we're going to get to questions here in a minute, but just to wrap up, I want to do a quick trivia game. It's called the Which is Greater game. Okay, so you need to show me a finger, 1, 2, or 3. All right, everyone simultaneously. Okay, there's no trick questions. This is all about advertising, marketing, and sponsorship. Okay, first trivia question. Okay, just look at Scott. You're thinking. Which is greater, the 2011 tablet app market, okay, or the 2011 ED drug market? Everyone. What is it, 1 or 2? 1 or 2, just.
I would have guessed 1.
All right, so we're half correct, okay. App market, 1.4 billion, ED drug market, 5 billion, and the app market's probably going to be about twice that this year, 2.8, so or 2.6. So it's moving upward, okay? All right, so another trivia game, all right? Which variance is greater? Okay, you got to listen close to this one. Which variance is greater? The variance between men who claim to have washed their hands after going to the bathroom and those actually observed doing it, the variance between women who claim to have washed their hands after going to the bathroom or those actually observed doing it, or the variance gap in market share between the iPhone and Android ownership. So a 1, 2, or 3. What variances? 2? No, 2. 1 is men, 2 is women, 3 is iPhone. Come on. Go to anyone who's ever been to a football game at Michigan State, and you clearly know it's number 1. Clearly it's number 1. All right, so the trivia game, last trivia question, then we're going to open it up to the field. Which number is greater, okay, the average pound overweight that the typical American is, or the tablet market penetration? Pounds overweight the average American is, or the tablet market penetration? Which one's greater? Pretty good. Actually, no, it's David, I think, was the only one to get it. Average American is 23 pounds overweight. The tablet market penetration is 34%, so... it's a changing marketplace. It's pretty crazy, that's for sure, and we wanted to open it up for questions.
And we all know that Dave definitely does research.
If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand.
Yes, please, just stand up and shout out your question.
I'll start. I guess for us at Warrior, we just made a big leap from being in a couple of what I'll call niche North American sports, lacrosse and ice hockey, to getting into the global world of soccer. And as was mentioned at the intros, we did a deal with Liverpool which was I think still at this point is the largest deal in English Premier League history. So here, as a relatively small company, we made a big leap to get into the global soccer world. And, we're still at the early days, so there's no, major claims of victory, but we're off to a very good start. And on a very tight timeline, we're able to create their kit, as they call it, and all the other items that go along with it. We broke all the records for the largest sales they've ever had for a kit in their history. So I think for a small company to jump into the big leagues, I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish so far, and hopefully it's going to continue to grow from there.
Does anyone else want to jump on that? Then we'll go to another question.
Yeah, I'll say it's our NASCAR sponsorship this year. It was an 8-figure contract that I signed about a year ago. Had never been to a Sprint Cup race in my life, but you count on your people that work for you and tell you, give you the advice, and kind of saw where that was going. First year in, we were, according to Joyce Julius, we were the #1 brand in terms of TV, value of TV exposure. That was one big piece for us. The hospitality work we did with our customers and getting with them one-on-one and meeting with Clinton, all that created some relationships that we couldn't have done otherwise. And then just the retail work we've done with people like Walmart and some other chains we couldn't have done unless we did that. We've got our money back 3-4 times over what we spent this year.
Any other questions? Just stand up if you have a question. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, question for Chris. Can you talk about the uniform sponsorship market? And are you upset at losing the Reebok lost the NFL contract to Nike? Is that a big deal, or was that way overpaid and not worth?
No comment on the second question. You look at the uniform market, and we have a very robust business with the NBA, and it's a profitable business. It allows us to connect with a fan and that consumer in a different way than traditional sponsorships. It allows you to, where the challenge comes in those deals is what does, and I'll use this example, the NBA relationship mean for Adidas basketball? Ultimately, we need to build our own brands. The NBA needs to build theirs. We need to build ours. And how do you work together to help achieve both companies or both leagues' objectives on those relationships? They're very lucrative deals. It's a great business model. Nike obviously is finding that out with the NFL also right now. And it allows us, so long as fans are willing to buy jerseys and wear them, we'll always be their apparel provider for those leagues and those deals.
Another, please.
So you guys mentioned sales is kind of the most important point, and that's the one thing that you guys, you use a little bit, but mostly you don't control. That's controlled by retailers, distributors, all of that. So how do you manage that relationship and control that kind of final point that leads to purchase?
And for us, we have input into it, so we are kind of working with our sales teams and customer teams to leverage our sports assets to build programs at retail. And also the impressions that we generate, the athletes that we connect with throughout the year have a direct correlation to sales that is part of our business model. So, for us, we look at it in a very integrated way where sports is the core of everything we do as a brand for Gatorade, and that has, an advertising and marketing communications element, it has a sales element, it has a kind of impressions and athletes reached element too.
So anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, and we talk about sponsorships and how important those partnerships are to our brand. Also, our retail partners are probably more important than any sponsorship can pay. So we have strong relationships with, whether it's a Foot Locker or Dick's Sporting Goods or an MC Sporting Goods, which is probably a local one, but that's who you're really building your business plans with. And then comes the fun part of the sponsorships and stuff like that, and building out marketing programs in order to create sell-through and ultimately foot traffic for that retailer inside their stores.
So, last question, someone? Go ahead.
Question for Scott. Do you find difficulty in marketing a product that some people view as hazardous to their health?
I find it difficult combating myths that are out there in the public. We've got about as much caffeine as a cup of Starbucks, and I have a funny feeling here most people drink coffee and have had probably that much. You get a lot of the issue you run into is there's a lot of media backlash, if you will. Some of it's around marketing to kids. Some of it's around mixing energy drinks with alcohol. So those are two things we don't do. But yeah, you do get that because the number one thing we run into is people saying that people that don't consume it say, I'm afraid of it. What's in it is going to make my heart explode, my head explode. You know, it's not going to, I can guarantee you. We sell 9 million a week. We've sold over 1 billion bottles. But yeah, that is something we fight every day.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, everyone. And a quick side note. Thank you to the panelists for their questions. It was a lot of fun. One thing I do want to acknowledge, because I was fortunate enough to help the executive committee, the students who put this event together in an advisory capacity. And I got to tell you, these students were very committed, very dedicated to putting together a great event. So big thumbs up to the organizer, your peers. I commend you.